China's foreign ministry says that Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's remarks have seriously deteriorated atmosphere of people-to-people exchanges. This comes as Tokyo and Beijing are embroiled in a deepening row over Taiwan after Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi suggested that her country could potentially become militarily involved in the event of an attempted Chinese invasion of the self-governing island. Previously, the Chinese embassy in Tokyo warned its citizens against traveling to Japan because of what it described as serious safety risks. Meanwhile, Japan has dispatched Masaaki Kanai, Director General of the Foreign Ministry's Asian and Oceanian Affairs Bureau, to Beijing for talks aimed at preventing further escalation. Now for this discussion, we welcome Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this ever since the last time we discussed this, what do you think has changed, and what diplomatic strategies can Japan and China both employ to de-escalate tensions without compromising their national security?
Well, what has happened is because the new Japanese Prime Minister, um, uh, Takaichi, has been known as an anti-China hawk, and she's also a strong supporter for changing Japan's wartime constitution to enable Japan to remilitarize as if Japan is a normal nation. Despite the wartime constitution, which prevented Japan from remilitarizing. This political stance, in fact, has gained a lot of support inside Japan. So the more hawkish Takaichi sounds, it seems that the more popular she's become, because a lot of the Japanese people have increasingly have a negative view of China. But of course, Taiwan is regarded as China's internal affairs, the unification, and China's always wants to pursue peaceful unification. It's not about to invade Taiwan anytime soon, unless Taiwan declares formal independence. But now Taiwan has got a separatist, known to be a separatist leader elected to represent Taiwan, to lead Taiwan. And so it also rattles Beijing's red line on Taiwan unification. And hence this unhelpful remark by Prime Minister Takaichi is seen by Beijing as unnecessarily provocative, and Beijing is now sending very strong, robust signals to caution Japan by naval patrols near the Senkaku or the Diaoyu Islands, and by maybe some military aircraft flights, all to send a very strong signal that Taiwan unification is a red line, and it's in fact very top on President Xi's agenda of the nation's Renaissance. The latest deadline for Taiwan peaceful unification is 2049, which is, of course, still many years ahead. But for Japan to hype up the possible Beijing invasion of Taiwan is extremely unhelpful. Because both peoples on the mainland of China and Taiwan are increasingly interacting, and the momentum is in train for Taiwan to seek an accommodation with Beijing eventually.
Right.
So, but in fact, there was a recent survey in Taiwan. Many of its young people, over 52%, do not want to defend Taiwan because they know that this is going to happen. In fact, the two places are, yes, politically different, but there's not the end of the world. And a lot of the businesses opportunities for Taiwanese people exist on the mainland. So I think for Japan to put its hands in these waters and stirring up problems is extremely unhelpful from Beijing's perspective, nor would it gain support by the United States, because the United States, the Trump administration doesn't want the spanner in the works, doesn't want a war with China. And of course, the United States is bound by a security treaty with Japan, but it doesn't want to be dragged into unwanted consequences by Japan. So I think that Takaichi is now using this rhetoric to gain political capital, because there is anti-China sentiments in Japan. But in this way, she could be playing with fire.
Andrew, I will disagree with the anti-China stance, because Japanese people, especially young people, a lot of people love China, including myself. I've traveled to China, and lots of young people don't like confrontation, and they would prefer, even in foreign diplomacy, they would prefer no confrontation with China. We saw from today's news that China calling back their travelers to Japan has already affected Japan so negatively, and Japan's taking hit. And how do you think, to what extent should statements by political leaders about potential military actions affect people-to-people exchanges and economic cooperation between these two states?
Well, actually, you put your finger on it. People-to-people exchanges are even more important than sending a representative official from Tokyo to talk to the Chinese, because on the one hand, the Takaichi administration wants to gain political capital by playing up this anti-Beijing sentiments. On the other hand, Japan wants to have opportunities for investment, for cooperation. But treading on Beijing's red line is not very helpful. But despite the official context, which are quite likely to concentrate on business opportunities, the fact that is a body of support for Takaichi's hawkish attitude towards China suggests that there is a lot of misunderstanding amongst the Japanese people, although a lot of the Japanese young people still want to have a friendship with Beijing, but there's still a great deal of misunderstanding. And of course, for China, Japan has never apologized for its invasion, and despite the fact that Germany, for example, after the Second World War, quickly apologized openly by the former German chancellor, kneeling in public view openly to the entire world, apologizing what the Nazi Germany did. But Japan never done that. It's never admitted any guilt, and that anchored the Chinese people. And also, the Japanese invasion was started by a fabricated incident on the 7th of July, 1937, over the so-called local bridge. And that, using a fabricated incident, that led to the large-scale invasion by Japan of northeast China. And that's why Beijing is now cautioning its nationals, because in this worsening relationship between China and Japan, there could be the risk exists of some sort of a fabricated incident, dragging China into unwanted consequences. Now, this kind of rhetoric against China, as if China wanted to invade Taiwan anytime soon, is also extremely unhelpful, because the idea is for peaceful unification. And also, additionally, Japan has a peace treaty, security treaty with the United States. But the Trump administration doesn't want to be dragged into a war with China. So I think it is also unhelpful, perhaps from Americans' perspective. But nevertheless, Takaichi wants to reap political capital and want to gain economic benefits at the same time, but she may be playing with fire.
Yes. Thank you very much for bringing that insight and shedding light on the history behind these two neighbors. Thank you very much, Andrew.